Am I the a-hole for not hiring back my recently turned vegan chef who quit in a fit of rage after he refused to cook meat and blames it on a mental health crisis? My wife and I own a restaurant, and our specialty is our variety of locally sourced meats. Recently, our head chef has come out as vegan. We were very supportive of him, and even started buying vegan foods for him to eat at work. Last week, he informed us that he couldn't work with meat anymore because it conflicted with his values. Although this was an inconvenience because he was the head chef, we were understanding and decided that we would assign other chefs to work with the meat. Then last Sunday, he told us he no longer would be ordering meat from our suppliers, didn't want to see or smell meat around him, refused to work in preparing the menu for the fall, and other duties that are directly related to his title as head chef, and that he just didn't feel comfortable working in an establishment where meat was served. When asked what solution he proposed, he said we had to stop serving meat. We told him that wasn't going to happen. We had already tried to accommodate him, but this was unreasonable. He then gave us an ultimatum. We either become a vegan restaurant or he quits. I told him he was getting worked up and suggested he sleeps on it before he says or does something in the heat of the moment and regrets it later. He said he didn't have anything to think about and quit on the spot because we are a couple of murderers who profit off the torture and suffering of animals, and he was disgusted at us, and we're a pair of C-words, etc. He said a bunch of nasty things, and even as he was walking out the door, he kept yelling, in front of the customers, about how we and everybody who works here have no morals or empathy, and all we care about is money, and he wished we were cooked alive. Then yesterday, my phone starts ringing, and it was him wanting to apologize for his behavior and ask for his job back. I told him not gonna happen. He had disrespected and insulted my wife and me in front of our team, disrespected and insulted our entire staff, and caused a scene in front of the customers. Absolutely unacceptable behavior. Sorry, but no, you can't have your job back. He said he was having a mental health crisis, that's why he acted out. I'm sorry, but that's not a get-out-of-jail-free card. You just don't drop that sentence and expect me to act as if nothing happened. Actions have consequences. To throw that sentence there as if those were the magic words that made all problems go away. After talking about the situation with some friends and family, a lot of them are telling me I'm an a-hole because if the man has a mental health issue that caused him to act out, then I must hire him back and get him help. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You attempted to give this person every single accommodation you could think of. You told them to take a breath and sleep on his decision before doing anything drastic. In my mind, you already went above and beyond to accommodate this person. So you don't set yourself on fire just to keep this guy warm. Most likely what happened is that you realized there really aren't many, if any, opportunities for strictly vegan chefs in your area. And when the reality of not having a job hit him, he came begging. The thing is though, hiring him back would be risky. What if he decides to purposely destroy a shipment of expensive meats? What if he stops putting meat in certain dishes resulting in you having to compromise meals? What if he decides to tell your staff and your customers that he wishes you would all be cooked alive again? Quitting for moral reasons is one thing. Quitting the way he did? Making outlandish demands, and wishing that everyone in your restaurant makes him unfit for employment, regardless of his mental health status. And if he gets his stuff together and comes back later on down the line, apologizes, tells you how he's in therapy or on medication, etc., etc., then maybe you could consider hiring him back. But until then, you have to do what is best for your employees and your family, not an a-hole. A head chef in a restaurant that specializes in meat dishes that decided he wasn't going to cook meat anymore should have lost his job right there. Yeah, what this guy did is like if an NBA player said he was no longer going to shoot the ball no matter how open it was. Not an a-hole. You're correct that mental health crisis is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. If your chef had come to you and asked for time off to deal with issues and you said no, you would be the a-hole. Instead, he cursed you and your wife in front of staff and customers, and he walked out without notice, leaving you in a bind. He quit, but he deserved to be fired. That's how I feel. This is someone who has worked with me for 6 years. I know him very well. Fair enough that if he actually has mental health issues, he maybe wanted to keep it private, but he never mentioned anything in the past. It felt more like exactly that, a get-out-of-jail-free card, like he was expecting to say the words and I would hire him back. He has seen in the past how other employees have had mental health issues or difficult personal situations, and we have gone above and beyond to accommodate them. He knows if he had mental health issues, he could come talk to us, and we would have worked something out. But to behave like an A and then just say, "Oh, but I was having a mental health crisis. And now I'm being told I must hire him back, otherwise I'm discriminating." He quit, and he disrespected my entire staff and made a scene. He can be my best friend, but if you behave like that, in a way that can also affect my reputation in business, then I don't want you in my team. Not today, Hall. You can be sympathetic to his mental health and not hire him back. You didn't mention if he said he was actually getting help for his mental health, which would be key for me to even slightly considering bringing him back. Probably still would not, as he would probably still have the same opinion about cooking/serving meat. I did ask if he has a therapist or somewhere to turn for help. I've struggled with depression for years, and I was more than happy to recommend my own therapist or work with him to find him one he would click with. He said he didn't have one, and didn't really need to talk to anyone. Again, if this is true, sorry that you're going through it, but not my job to hold your hand and walk you to the therapist's office myself. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for publicly posting a message from my brother's landlord? So I, 26 male, am a twin. My brother and I had a very rough childhood, and it took a horrible toll on him. He ended up with a really debilitating mental illness, and has suffered from substance dependency since we were in our teens. I love my brother so much, and I've always done my very best to be there for him. But if any of you have had a loved one with these issues, you know how hard it can be. 2 weeks ago, he passed away from an overdose. It broke me honestly. Despite everything, he was my best friend in the world, and I feel like a spare part without him. My brother lived by himself in a flat, which is where he passed away. I won't get too detailed, but it was a few days before he was found, so there was some cleanup required in the flat. I guess he was in rent arrears too, because yesterday, 3 days after my brother's funeral, his landlord reached out to me via messenger. He said, and I quote, "Hi, Opie. I'd once again like to tell you how sorry I am for your tragic loss. I cannot imagine how you feel having lost your brother. I know you were his only next of kin, so I just like to get the feelers out vis-a-vis a monetary issue. Your brother was quite behind on his rent and owed £1,500. With the cleanup I paid for following the incident, the total comes to £1,550. As you're the sole inheritor of his estate, I'd like to negotiate with you how we're going to go about reimbursing this payment. I understand this is a large sum, so I'm willing to work out a monthly plan if that works best for you." Honestly, I kind of flipped. My brother hasn't even been dead a month, hasn't even been in the ground for a week, and I'm very, very much still grieving. I haven't even really processed that he's gone. I can't really believe that this guy thinks it's appropriate to start bugging me for money so soon. I went on a huge rant to my husband about it, and ended up not responding to the message but screenshotting it and posting it to Facebook. Several of my friends agreed that this guy was totally over the line, but he messaged me later absolutely furious that I was trying to ruin his livelihood and lambasting him for doing his job. We ended up having a bit of an argument where nothing really got resolved. Was I out of line here? Was I justified? Edit. Something I've realized was unclear. The cleanup landlord paid for was not the biohazard cleanup. My husband and I paid for that. However, the landlord paid for an ordinary domestic cleaning service to come in afterwards, and after my brother's stuff was collected. This is the cleaning cost he referred to. Something coming up a lot, so I'll put it here. This dude owns at least 5 properties currently, and has been a landlord for at least 25 years, per his own website and social media. I highly doubt my brother's the first tenant death he has ever dealt with. Not today, Hall. It always baffled me how people think the next of kin is somehow responsible for the deaths of the dead. He didn't say next of kin was responsible. He said, and is right, that the estate is responsible. The landlord tried to intentionally muddy the waters by both talking about the estate and also a monthly payment plan. There is no such thing as a monthly payment plan with an estate. Either the estate has the money or it doesn't. The monthly part was what mostly upset me, to be honest, because that's him pretty much directly admitting he's expecting me to pay out of pocket. Not today, Hall. He should go through the proper channels as a debt would as per of the estate. If your brother has no money in the estate and the laws don't require the family to pay him, he's out of options other than guilting you to pay him. See, this is kind of what husband said. He works in a law firm, though this isn't his area. and suspects landlord messaged me directly because he has no legal remit to claim this from me. You're the a-hole. I'm really, really sorry for what you've been through, but I think publicly posting this message was wrong. The landlord needs to make a living, especially at a time when people are struggling financially. And as miserable as this has been for you, you do have to be prepared to tie up loose ends. The landlord waited 2 weeks and phrased his request as tactfully as he could under the circumstances. If you felt it was too soon for you to deal with us, you could have simply told him that instead of exposing him to public ridicule. Once again, I'm so sorry about all you've been through, and I'm sorry to call you an a-hole. It really does just mean I think you're technically in the wrong in this situation. Next story. Am I the a-hole for turning my husband's friend and his girlfriend away when they came to visit? My husband and I have 4 kids. He has a close friend named Mike. He used to visit us regularly with his wife Lillian and their 2 kids. So Lillian and I also became best friends. We'd see her every week at our house, and our children started hanging out together a lot. Lillian and Mike unfortunately got divorced 8 months ago, so no more family visits for Mike. But Lillian and the kids kept visiting weekly. Last Sunday, I invited Lillian and her kids for dinner. My daughters and I prepared favorite kids' meals and did some cleaning as the girls were looking forward to see Lillian and the kids. Well, my husband had Mike come over Sunday morning. Mike said he also wanted to bring his new girlfriend over dinner later on. I apologized and said I was already having guests over. He asked who they were, and I said Lillian. He was taken aback. No idea why, as he knows I'm close to Lillian and invites her over all the time. Then Mike asked me to call Lillian and cancel her visit because he wanted to bring his new girlfriend to come meet me, my husband, and kids. I told him sorry, but I can't cancel dinner. Mike reminded me that his girlfriend is his family. And since he's my husband's friend, then I should be welcoming her to my home and get to know her and let her get to know the kids. But the conversation got nowhere, and my plans for the evening were assumed. Lillian came with the kids, and then the door rang while we were eating, and it was Mike and his girlfriend. My husband opened the door, but I followed and refused to let Mike in, and told him I was already having guests. But he demanded that I tell Lillian to leave, since she had her chances of visiting but his girlfriend never did. I argued with him and said he doesn't get to dictate who is welcome to my house and who isn't, and told him to please leave and not interrupt dinner for my guests. He left after causing a scene. Now my husband said I should have handled it better, and I had no right to treat his friend's soon-to-be fiancée that way, since she's family who wants to maintain good relationship with his friend. He called me judgmental and rude towards his friend, and should apologize because I will cost him a 15 years friendship with Mike. Mike was upset and claimed I was ganging up with Lillian to spite him, but I care about my friendship with her. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hall. I'm having a hard time imagining people like Mike can exist. Not today, Hall. I'm not surprised at all. Reddit has molded me to darkness of crazy. OP he only pushed so hard because he wanted to spite the ex for his new. I think Mike is gonna get dumped. Imagine showing up at someone's door for dinner, and then realizing your boyfriend has already been told you aren't welcome there at this time, and then boyfriend starts demanding the hosts kick out their guests? Oof, I'd run so fast. Not today, LOP. Mike is an entitled A. And then to realize the guest your boyfriend is trying to have removed from someone else's home are his ex-wife and his children, who he already knew were going to be there. I'm just imagining the poor girlfriend standing there all dressed up, maybe even with a bottle of wine or a casserole dish in her hands, wondering what in the living hell is going on, and then putting 2 and 2 together. I'd be mortified. I hope she dumped his butt. Well, now we all know why Lillian left him. The sheer entitlement of that a-hole is astounding. It's your home, and he doesn't get to tell you who you can or can't invite into it. Nonetheless trying to demand who can or can't be friends with. Holy crap. Not today, Hall. Edit. Just got to the last paragraph and I am now super pissed at your husband too. His friend acted like a total jerk, and he expected you to apologize? Let's stamp his forehead with a-hole while we're at it. He should be supporting the prior plans and offering another night for dinner with Mike. You guys can be totally excited to meet his new girl on a night where you didn't have prior plans. If this has been a dance recital or another activity not involving Lillian, I doubt this would have even been an issue. I would bet $100 that Opie's husband told Mike his ex was coming over that night. Then Mike decided that it would be a good idea to flex the fact that he has a new girlfriend in front of his ex. He also wanted to prove that Opie and husband value him over his ex. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for firing a person who was just trying to make a living? I, 30 male, a general manager at a big box retailer, think Walmart, Target, Best Buy, and have been for about a year, though I've worked here total 5 years. I've had this employee who has been great. I'll call her Sam. Hard worker, been with the store for 3 years. But recently she's joined some sort of MLM. Don't remember the exact one. Something like Tirado? I don't know, some essential oils company. Anyways, I've been getting complaints from customers and other employees, saying that she's been pushing her oils while helping and talking to them. I had a talk with her about it. She apologized and said she wouldn't do it again. That was about a month and 3 weeks ago. The complaints haven't stopped, so I talked with the store manager, Big Boss, and last week we let her go. Well, since then, other employees have complained to me that it wasn't right, that she was just trying to make a living. While I understand that, it's strictly against our policy to run a side business while you're working, and to my knowledge it's the way with most stores. Plus, we sell essential oils too, so by doing this, she's directly interfering with our business. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She was going under your nose and running a business in your business. Also, I believe the company you're thinking of is doTERRA, one of the most predatory companies, second only to Young Living. You don't want to associate with them, so glad you got that crap out of your store. Not only that, but their products are garbage, and they advise people to consume their essential oils, which is never advisable, according to the FDA, CDC, the Mayo Clinic. Not the a-hole. Her selling her products would hurt your store if it bothers the customers. She was very unprofessional. I doubt she cared about being professional, and likely was just using the job as a way to increase the number of potential customers she was exposed to. She was hurting everyone else who worked there, and was given ample warning. A lot of places would have fired her on the spot at first offense. Definitely not. It's store policy. You wouldn't allow solicitors into the store to do it. And that's exactly what she was doing. Am I the a-hole for demanding my widow's sister-in-law and her kids to leave after she put a lock on the bathroom door and denied my daughter access to it? I'm a father of a 16-year-old daughter. I own a one-bathroom middle-sized house where me, my wife, her widow's sister, and her 2 kids, 13 and 16, live. My daughter had issues with her mother and requested to live with me permanently. I had legal stuff finalized and my daughter moved in with us a month ago. She and her stepmom get along, and so far everything was going well. My daughter had her period days ago. Nothing new, nothing strange, except my sister-in-law came to me complaining about my daughter leaving used pads in the bathroom, causing her sons to see them. I asked where exactly and she said in the trash can. I laughed in her face asking if she thought this was abnormal or strange. She got upset that I didn't understand her point and wanted me to listen carefully as she explained that her boys are pretty young and shouldn't be subjected to witness stuff like that. I said I'll see what I can do. I talked to my daughter and made sure she wasn't just leaving her used pads in full display inside a trash can. Turns out she wraps them in toilet paper, which is enough in my opinion. I told my sister-in-law there was no problem then, and she should quit being too sensitive over her boys. She got mad saying I was dismissing her concerns, and reminded me her oldest has blood phobia, and my daughter, even though doing it unintentionally, keeps leaving her pads exposed. I welcomed any ideas to fix this, and she suggested my daughter throw her used pads outside house. I stopped arguing at that point because of how ridiculous she was being. She threatened to change the bathroom door lock if I don't do something, but I laughed her off. Then my daughter called me the next day after getting back from school, saying her step-aunt refused to let her use the bathroom and was keeping it locked. She had to use her new friend's neighbor bathroom, but called me to let me know. I was freaking livid and went home and blew up at my sister-in-law. She apologetically said the lock was only for when my daughter tries to leave her pads inside, and that she would have allowed her if she agreed to put her used pads elsewhere, but my daughter was stubborn. I told her she was out of her mind to get a new lock for my door in my own house, and keep my daughter from accessing the bathroom. I removed it quickly, and she kept lashing, then called my wife. My wife came to calm us down, but I told her and sister-in-law that I have no problem kicking her out. My sister-in-law started crying, and my wife said her sister is a widow and will be homeless without us. But I said I stopped giving a crap the minute she tried to keep my daughter out of the bathroom. I demanded she leaves, but my wife said I was unfair to those kids. I bluntly said not my problem and she has 6 days to move out. Now for the top comments. Not today home. Boys are pretty young. Teach them that women have periods then. Christ. Your daughter has a great father. Tell sister-in-law if she doesn't like it, she can get out. Seriously, the boys are 13 and 16. They can deal with it and be glad they aren't the ones getting periods. 13 and 16 is old enough to learn not to dig through the bathroom trash. Not today home. Yay, Opie. Widows with 16-year-old and 13-year-old kids can well afford to work a full-time job, since the kids are in school most of the day and can stay alone for, say, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Or she can apply for welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing, go to a shelter, ask her late husband's family for help. The possibilities are endless. She started receiving benefits after her husband passed away, but she complains it's not enough to provide for her 2 kids. The rest of my in-laws are negative and won't help. Everyone sucks here and there's an easy solution. The sister-in-law has to leave, but you let the kids stay. No sense punishing them for having a neurotic mom. Your sister-in-law is a monster, and I'm pretty sure what she did counts as some form of child mistreatment. But putting 2 kids on the street would also be horrible. Protecting your daughter should not involve endangering other kids. I don't think Opie's an a-hole. Sister-in-law literally locked Opie's daughter out of the bathroom in house I presume she doesn't pay anything towards. Besides, what are the odds sister-in-law would actually let them stay? Depending on where you live, only one is considered old enough to decide where they live. It sucks for sister-in-law's kids, but Opie should put his daughter first. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to share my stuff from my dad's at my mom's house? My parents are divorced and I split my time equally between parents. Until 2 years ago when I decided to just spend the time at my dad's and be less at my mom's. My reasons were largely to do with it being less crowded at my dad's. It's just me, him, and his wife. At my mom's, it's her husband, his 4 kids, and his 2 nieces who all live with him full-time. It bothered my mom because she thought I would love having a big family. But no offense to her, it never felt like a real family. They were her family, sure, because she married her husband, but it never felt like that marriage made us all anything. They were just random people. I never found anything in common with any of them, and I never felt love for them, except my mom. It was easier being there less. There was less pressure to hang out with them, and it didn't annoy me as much having so many other kids around. The problem is because they have so many kids at their house and they don't have that much money. Things are tight. My dad got me a new console a couple of months ago for my 16th birthday, and my mom knows about it. She asked me to bring it over some of the weekends, so we could all play and they could experience some of the stuff they miss out on. But I told her I wasn't going to do that. It's been a fight between us since that, because she's disappointed I don't want to share more of the privileges I get with my siblings. She doesn't know I don't think of them as my siblings. She thinks I see them as typical annoying younger siblings, but I really just don't think about them all that much. I just don't want to bring stuff to that house from my dad's. I have my stuff there and my stuff at her place, though not really anymore. The other night my mom sent me a text that she's disappointed I don't want to do more to have fun with the others. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Sounds like you were an incredibly mature and insightful 16-year-old. Unfortunately, I can see the console thing going from bring it over every now and then to leave it here for a week to it getting broken. Not because those kids are bad, just 6 kids sharing a console sounds dire. You might discuss it with your dad. See if he can help you out. He may be willing to play the bad guy and say it stays at his house. I don't know your parents' relationship. Keep enjoying your space. Tell your stepmom you appreciate her. Huh. I did that for my son. Wasn't really concerned with how my ex thought of me, so I told her that my rule is that console stayed at my house. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Good chance Opie's dad will do that same. Not today home. If, and this is an if, you want to spend time with the other kids, you can suggest activities that everyone can afford to. Go to the park, play board games, etc. But do not bring things like a game console, because you know you'll be asked to leave it behind. Not today home. Your mom chose this family, while it was forced on you. She get a new love in her life, you get 4 random strangers wanting to borrow your stuff. I get that this must be hard. Good on you for not openly being hostile towards your new siblings. Not the a-hole for not wanting to share your belongings. You clearly are making efforts, but there are limits to what should be expected of you. If they break it, will they replace it? Of course not. Money's tight. Keep it at your dad's. Safer this way. It's 100% yours anyway. Not the a-hole. Your dad bought it, so it should be at your dad's. It's your call to want to take it over to your mom's. Just a reminder that those kids didn't have a say in the matter of having a new sibling, too. And I get that, which is why I'm not going around blasting it. I keep it to myself. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for asking a man to drop charges against my son? My 42 female son is 16 years old, and about a year ago, he started hanging out with an unhealthy crowd. I have been giving him detentions of all kinds, but it only made him rebel against me, so I stopped and let him figure it out for himself. A few weeks ago, the worst happened. I got a call from the police station that my son had participated in an attempted theft. As soon as I got the call, I told my husband, and we went to the police station. They told us that my son and his friends tried to steal stuff from some man's car, and when the man came and saw them, he had a heart attack due to previous problems. His friends all ran away, but he stayed with the man, called the ambulance, and helped him take his chest pain medicine. Luckily, he's okay now. When we got home, my husband was furious, but he kept yelling at him. But I tried to stay rational and ask my son to tell me everything. Then he broke down crying and told me how I was right about his friends and how horrible they are. He then said that his friends came to the idea to steal a wallet and a mobile phone they saw in the passenger seat in a car. He told them that it was a dumb idea and that they should drop it, but they didn't listen. He then didn't help them, but didn't stop them either. He saw the man coming but didn't tell them because he hoped for him to catch them in the act. But when the man came, he got so shocked that he started holding his chest and he fell on his knees. His friends then ran away, but he helped him. Now, the man has returned from the hospital. Also, he will be pressing charges against all the boys, including my son. Don't get me wrong. I know that my son did a bad thing, but I think it's a little unfair to treat him the same as the other boys who ran away. So I visited the man, and after a while of chatting, I asked him if he could drop the charges against my son because, after all, he was the one who helped him. The man then got furious and told me that I'm a bad mother and a horrible person for even asking such a thing of him. After I got home, I told my husband about what happened, and he was also mad at me. He said that our son has to face the consequences of his actions, but I disagree because a criminal record of this nature will ruin his life. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Not only did your son participate in a crime, you only have his side of the story. This man is at the hospital because of your son and friends, likely costing him lots of money. And you showed up to get your son off because he didn't let the guy die after participating in a crime? You're the a-hole. Crimes have punishments. What does it show your son if he gets off? That it's okay to do crimes as long as you make sure the other people do worse? He's a minor, and his record should be sealed when he turns 18. Making him deal with this now will prevent it happening again when the record can't be sealed. Also, if the son was so against it, why didn't he leave? He just stood around and watched while his friends broke into a car? You wanted your child to figure it out on his own, and now he's learning the lesson you didn't teach him. Congratulations. Yeah, this guy has it right. You should have kept trying to discipline him in my view. Keep going until you find something that works. But you didn't, which I can understand. Raising kids is hard. You made a choice of letting him figuring things out, and you should stick to it. It hurts, and it sucks, but you made your choice, and he made his. You're the a-hole, but I get it. No a-holes here. Well, I'm going against the grain. Given that your son called for an ambulance and stayed, and without the staying likely none of the kids / potential young adults would have been caught, I don't think that you're the a-hole for asking. Given the man's brush with the death experience, I understand his anger at your asking. The only reason the son stayed is to not live with the guilt of killing a man for his stupidity. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not apologizing to my brother / sister-in-law for saying they starved their baby? Plus little update. My brother and his wife had their first baby 7 months ago. My mother, who lives with me, recently started watching the baby instead of placing in daycare. So the baby is at my house all week. It's been a month, and my mom says that the baby barely sleeps. Will cry and show signs of tiredness, but only naps for half an hour at the most. My brother and sister-in-law have also told us that the baby still wakes up almost every 1 to 2 hours throughout the night, like a newborn, and it's extremely exhausting. They've tried plenty of different things, but nothing has improved much. The baby only drinks breast milk. While I know every baby's different, and what works for some might not on others, I still can't help but think they aren't feeding the baby enough. As a mother of 3 myself, all my kids started differently. One ate baby cereals at 4 months, another didn't take solids until 6 months. But I think I have a good sense of when a baby is ready to start taking in more. After finding out that they only feed a baby 4 ounces at a time, I suggested talking to a pediatrician about starting baby on solids. They said a doctor already gave them the go-ahead, but my brother and sister-in-law didn't think the baby was ready yet. So I said I think upping his ounces in milk would probably help baby sleep better. Fuller is equal to longer stretches. They brushed me off. The last Friday my mom was watching the baby, I decided on her own to give the baby smashed up banana, which the baby absolutely loved. My sister-in-law was pissed, and obviously I can see why. It wasn't my mother's call to make for numerous reasons. But my mom wouldn't back down, saying they were starving their grandchild. So they called me and basically demanded I get in the middle and make my mom apologize to them or she wouldn't see the baby anymore. I told them I think she should apologize for not getting their permission, but that I don't think my mother is wrong for her reasoning. That they aren't feeding their child enough. But maybe because they're new parents, they ought to hear other parents out. They called me some choice words and said they don't feel comfortable leaving their child at my house anymore until we apologize. I said I wouldn't give their baby anything they didn't want me to, but that I will not apologize for voicing my opinion. Am I the a-hole for not just apologizing and keeping my opinions to myself? Now my mother and I might not get to see the baby for the foreseeable future. Now for the top comments before the little update. You're nicer than I am. I would have called their pediatrician. They are a mandatory reporter, and this could easily be a CPS issue. Kids die because of stuff like this. But they saw a doctor, and they would have noticed if the baby is not gaining weight. There's so much info missing in this post. Does the baby gain weight? Does he reach his milestones? Is he only getting pumped milk or milk directly from the mother too? Nature doesn't let you track volume, so you never know how much they drink. Not day home. Call the pediatrician. I had an in-law that was starving her infant son. I was getting ready to call CPS when the pediatrician yelled at her, told her to get the baby a high chair and start feeding him. Info. Is the baby actually underweight and failing to thrive? If baby's breastfeeding, you have no idea how much baby is having at a time. 7 months is roughly the right time to start on solids for most babies. But you do realize that when you start yours on solid at 4 months, that's totally against medical advice now, right? 6 months is the earliest they should be introduced to anything other than breast milk/formula. So I need more info to judge this one. If baby is underweight, then you're not the a-hole. But if baby is developing properly as a healthy weight, is determined by a professional who has been mapping their growth and weight, etc., then you're absolutely an a-hole. Edit and slight update. I see a lot of call CPS. Neither my mom nor I think involving CPS is appropriate. We know the parents love their baby and are just worried about giving baby the wrong thing. Baby has regular checkups and doesn't seem like he misses a meal. There's never been any reports of malnutrition, so this is why, I assume, parents have felt comfortable going at the pace they are. We know the baby eats 4 ounces at a time because that's how much are in each bottle, and sister-in-law says 1 bottle each feeding, but we have no idea how much baby drinks when she directly breastfeeds at home. She works part-time, so baby's only with mom for 6 hours a day at most. That's about 2 to 3 bottles worth. I know I said I think they aren't feeding baby enough, but that was out of concern for sleep and parent sanity, and not because I think they're purposely starving their child. I talked with my brother and told him my concerns. He said we'll start baby on solids slowly, their own blends of mixed veggies. But fruits are too sugary, and they don't want baby to get used to sweets first. Ultimately, I think they took what I said under consideration, and are still navigating new parenthood. However, they are still not talking to my mom, because they don't trust that she will consult with them first before giving their child foods they haven't tested themselves. Until she apologizes, I don't think mom will be babysitter anymore. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my vegan sister after she threw away my dog and I's food? So a few weeks ago, my sister broke up with a longtime boyfriend of 3 years. They lived together, so I opened my home to her and let her stay until she got back on her feet. She's a hardcore vegan, and while I don't care about her dietary choices, I do not believe she should push it on others the way she does so heavily. So anyways, a few days into her staying at my home, I got home from work to see my fridge was almost empty. I thought maybe she had cleaned the fridge for me, but just 2 days ago I went shopping and bought things like bacon, steak, etc. to make my lunches. I went into her room and I asked her what happened to all my food. I figured it was just some sort of mistake, but she informed me that she purposefully cleansed my life of all the dead animals I eat in the street. At first, I didn't even believe it, but then it spiraled into a huge argument where she slammed the door in my face. In my own home. I called my mother to let her know what was going on and to get her opinion, where I ended up getting a scolding for how I treated my sister, and how I should know she is going through a lot. At that point, I just hung up because obviously I'm not going to be happy when $50 worth of food is just thrown out for no good reason. Despite this, I figured I would appease my other family members and let her stay, but I let her know she was on thin ice with me. The following day, I fed my dog and went to work. I told her she was not to touch any of my belongings or throw anything away or I would kick her out. She protested, but I told her I was serious and left. When I returned home, my dog's bowl was empty, so I went to refill it in case he was hungry again later on. When I go to get the food, it's gone. I barged into her room and asked her what's the deal with the food being missing. She said she threw out my dog's food and fed him bread instead. My dog isn't even supposed to have gluten. It makes him itchy. She then got in my face telling me the dogs are happier living a vegan lifestyle. I told her my dog would be happier with her living a lifestyle outside of my home, and told her she had 8 hours to get her stuff and go to my mother's. I went out to buy more dog food, and once I returned, not only was her room a wreck, but my dog was gone. I called my mother to explain the situation, and asked if she had a dog with her, and she exploded on me again about how awful I was for not supporting my sister, and that the dog was not at the house with her. A mutual friend of ours let me know she had a dog at my mother's house. However, my mother and sister continued to spin the story to our family, and now they all refuse to speak to me, especially since I had the police help me retrieve him. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister stay in my home despite pushing her vegan lifestyle on me and my pet? Edit. I was starting to feel conflicted on if I really was being sick and overdramatic for kicking out my sister in need, or if my family really does just enable her. And just to be clear, the dog is safe. I made sure to note I got the police involved, and the dog is currently with me. Edit 2. For more clarification, since people keep asking, my sister and mother only have a 15-year age difference. They're more like friends than mother and daughter. My mother would do anything to please her. I, on the other hand, was born after my father died, and my mother held some sort of resentment to me, which is why I left the home at 18, while my sister stayed until 22 years of age. I didn't have much contact for a while, but when I heard she needed help, I thought this would mend things. Obviously, it did not. It made my relationship with my family worse. They're both vegan, and it also seems they told other family members that I shoved or hit her, which never happened. I am considering fully cutting ties. However, I am worried since she knows my home address. Edit 3. She didn't stay at my mother's because she was housing my aunt and her children for Thanksgiving, which of course I was not invited to. I saw my sister on Facebook saying she needed a place to stay, and this whole big long sob story, so I took her in. Now for the top comments. Not stay home. Crazy vegan breakdown aside, someone who messes with your dog is someone not worth being around. Holy cow. As a vegan, the sister is a complete and total a-hole. She seems desperate to gain control after her breakup, and is misusing her ethical stance to exert control in her new environment. It's not about animal welfare, it's about being in charge. I don't like the meat aisle, but I don't damage the grocery store in a fit of rage. The sister and the mom need to buzz off. Can I be pressed charges for dog napping? Not stay home. Dogs are happier vegans. Dogs are naturally carnivorous. Your sister doesn't know squat. She had no right to touch anything of yours in your own home. Some nerve. Think we know why her relationship broke down. There's a huge case of entitlement and narcissism here. She believes her beliefs and circumstances allow her complete control of her environment when she's a guest, and in complete contradiction of being a good guest. She dog-napped an innocent doggo. It's obvious where she was enabled, the people who are defending her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife selfish and ungrateful when she suggested we cut back on saving for our son's college, rather than spending for her entertainment? I, male 29, work full-time to support my son, 15 months old, and wife, 28. She's unemployed but is a stay-at-home mom and we're both happy with that. Usually. Recently, money's been tight as I haven't been bringing as much home. I work in sales on commission, so I've been trying to figure out how to make ends meet while looking for a better job. We spend about $60 a month on a 4 to 5 streaming services, HBO/Netflix, etc. And my wife spends about $50 a month in mobile games, and over $100 in ordering lunch through Uber Eats. I wouldn't mind if we could afford it, but right now we can't. When I brought up cutting back, she said streaming services and mobile games were the only breaks she had from working at keeping up the house and caring for our son, and ordering out made lunchtime a break instead of more work for her. I asked her to please stop ordering out and to get rid of some of the streaming services or the mobile games. She said that's silly, and it was the hair dye and teeth whitening I pay for that was why we're short each month. But I shouldn't be so vain and to give this up for the family. I spend about $150 for them every few months, and if it was just me, that'd be one thing, but I get both done for work. Believe me, I wish it wasn't the case, but people are just more open and friendly with me when I'm not a ginger dude with brown teeth. I don't want to have to do it, but I feel I have to, so I'm on a level playing field. I said she had plenty of time to relax when I got home, since I always cook and clean up after dinner and take care of our son until bedtime. She told me that doesn't mean anything when she can't do the things she enjoys, as if she didn't enjoy spending time with me, and that we would have plenty of money if I didn't put $200 a month away for our son's college fund. I reminded her we agreed to this before our son was born, and that if we didn't keep at it, we weren't going to have enough when he turns 18. She said we didn't even know if he wanted to go to college yet, and that I had no idea how hard it was raising a child. I have plenty experience feeding and changing diapers, and that our work at home is just as stressful as my job, if not more. I might be the a-hole already, but this is the part that really stuck with me. I said she wasn't grateful for the work I was doing, and selfish to think of her own entertainment over providing for our son. She snapped back at me that I was being abusive both emotionally and by trying to withhold money. And at that point, I was just floored and walked out. I'm hiding away in my home office now. She's never said anything like that to me before. And to be honest, I don't really know what she means as far as withholding money, since I've always given her what she asks for, as far as I can remember. Is it really abusive to cut back on spending? Did I go too far? Edit. I wasn't very clear on the Uber Eats thing, so for people asking questions, I don't know exactly how much it is, as I haven't ever added it all up, but it's 3 times a week, so between $100 and $400 a month. Also, I appreciate you all for taking time to share your thoughts. Not day home. $50 in mobile games a month? The heck is that all about? There are games you can buy for $10 and play for hundreds of hours. Introduce her to Stardew Valley or Minecraft or something. Uber Eats is just a goddamn scam. Get rid of that BS immediately. Tell her to rotate streaming services. I doubt she's watching HBO, Disney+, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and Hulu, enough each month to make each of them worth it each month. I rotate them on a monthly basis. 1 month is HBO month, next is Hulu month, next is Disney month, etc. Don't sacrifice your kid's future for you or your wife's momentary pleasure. Not day home. Get rid of Uber Eats. That one is fair. You bring a lunch to work and so does your wife. Uber Eats is such an expensive and so unnecessary. Deleting the app saved me money. No, you're not abusive and she should apologize for saying that. You're trying to keep the family financially afloat, not blocking her access to money. Tell her half the game's gotta go, but the streaming services are needed as a parent. How else do you drown out your children screaming and playing? There are games that don't cost money monthly. You cut back too. Also, if being a stay-at-home mom is too much for her, she can go to work 40 hours a week and cover daycare. I appreciate how hard staying home can be, but sometimes that extra $400 to $500 a month they can make above and beyond childcare costs can be a night and day difference to household finances. Plus, she gets time out of the house. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for confronting my friend and ruining our kids' friendship? Okay, I'll try to keep this short. So I have this BFF, 40s female that is man-hungry. She picks these men who are all sorts of wrong, is a serial wife, and legit flip-flops from one ex back to the other, and plays them against each other. She constantly comes for advice, and I've gotten to the point of telling her that I think she's making a mistake, but I'll support her no matter what. I always felt she's a good person, and means well, but kinda screwed up in a few things. No big deal. She has 2 kids my kid's age and they were super close. We were like a little family. We were always together. She randomly last minute asked me over summer to watch one of her kids for a week due to some work conference. I was in the middle of a house renovation and sharing a room with my kid. I wanted to help, but it was impossible. I felt awful and I told her no. But then I tried to help by seeing if the conference she was going to had a Zoom option, which is when I found out there was no conference at all. She was very specific with the man's detail that then proved easy to double-check. Her ex lived in a neighboring state. I never told her I knew, but then she kept giving me details of her trip that proved that she was in fact going to a state and not where she said. She texted at the airport, she texted me about events in real time, and none of it was true. I was super disappointed that she lied and tried to manipulate me with a working single mom angle instead of just being honest. But in the end, I decided to never let her know that I knew. She kept lying about the trip after the fact too, which pissed me off, but I tried to big picture it that our kids were besties. And she was probably embarrassed, so just let it go. Flash forward a few weeks to her wanting to get her kids some passes for something that we had passes for. But my passes were restricted, so I had one last day to upgrade them so we could go together. I spoke to her a lot about the cost, made sure she was buying them, then upgraded to the tune of $300. Every time I tried to make plans, there was some lame excuse. Then she started pulling away, canceling plans, etc. Every time I tried to make plans for these tickets, there would be another excuse. Like one kid's birthday. Let's use our ticks. No, they're grounded. Then she takes an impromptu road trip with them to the zoo and posts it on Facebook. Gave me some lame excuse that it was last minute. Whatever. Final straw was she canceled for my kid's birthday party. She said her kids were sick. Then I see them on Facebook at the beach. So finally, I confronted her and told her I was upset she lied about the party. She then said, I'm not a liar. To which I then just snapped and unleashed a barrage of, like the passes you said you bought? Like the conference that you never went to, etc. We never spoke again, and now our kids don't either. I feel so badly that this mom drama ruined our kids' friendship. Am I the a-hole for confronting her? Edited to add. Time frame was we were friends for years, and the trip lie to my kid's birthday was roughly a month and a half. Not the a-hole. Your kids will make new friends, and so will you. I do feel sad that I was so wrong about her, and truly cared for her and was there for her in many different ways that were outside my comfort zone. But I have a full life, and cutting someone out when I'm done is pretty much my go-to. I have another friend who pretty much gets past everything with everyone, and they all find a way to heal and move on. I don't know how to do that, and sometimes I wonder if I should learn. But ultimately, I really don't want to. Wondering if it's healthier? I don't know. I'm probably overthinking it. Not the a-hole. She's a fake and a flake. You probably saved your kids heartache later on. You'll probably find out that they didn't like this woman or her kids all that much. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boss no to working weekends when my coworkers don't? I got hired for this salary job where they really hyped up the work-life balance and reasonable hours and job interview. Like the way that they never expect people to stay late or work on weekends or holidays. That turned out to be BS. My boss got my personal phone number off my resume from when I applied, and after not long, he was blowing up my phone on nights and weekends, asking me to come work. I'd always not answer. Then when he'd ask on Monday why I wasn't answering my phone, I'd pull out my work phone like, sorry, are you sure you had the right number? I'm not seeing any missed calls. I'd often say called my own cell, so I'd say that I don't really use it much. I leave it home a lot. And when I do check, I've usually got like 40 missed calls. And my voicemail is always full, so I probably miss stuff unless I'm expecting a call at a certain time. And that if he needs to reach me, he should try my work phone because I'm very careful to follow up on any call to that within one business day. He asked me how he could reach me outside of 9 to 5, because he sees I leave my work phone on my desk at night and over the weekend. I said that honestly, I'm not glued to any phone on the weekend, so if he needs me to take a call on the weekend, could he make it a meeting request and put it on my calendar so I know to be available? Or if I know I won't be available to take a call, I can suggest an alternate time to call. He said that wasn't really gonna work for him. More often things come up last minute, and when he calls people on the weekend, it wasn't planned. And that is not calling for a teleconference meeting, he's calling asking people to come in. I said that on the weekends I usually have commitments that were made 1 to 3 weeks out, and I'm not often able to cancel a previous commitment with under a day notice. So if he needs me in on a weekend, it'd be best if he could schedule that 3 weeks out, so that I know not to make conflicting plans. He said that wasn't possible, and I said okay. He could try and reach out and I'd answer the phone if I heard it ringing, but I wasn't always on the phone, so I might not catch it always. Anyway, I've gone back to ignoring his calls, and my coworkers have gotten kind of frustrated with me, saying that coming in on weekends is part of the job, and that I wasn't pulling my weight. I said that I don't know what job they signed on for, but in my job interview, I was promised regular hours, and took my pay based on regular hours. So I'm working regular hours. My coworkers got frustrated, and said that if everyone did what I was doing, nothing would get done. I said maybe nothing should get done then, if it's coming at the cost of y'all not being home for dinner with the family. I don't really think my coworkers see it as an option to say no, so they're angry at me because I'm doing it and they're not comfortable doing it. Am I the a-hole for not working evenings or weekends? Not the a-hole, but I'd start looking for a new job. This is the answer. I oftentimes don't get why people come to the sub with the work stuff. I mean, some interpersonal issues between people at the same level make sense. But when people have issues with their boss, or the company, or HR, or something, I just don't get it. Because you can be not the a-hole all day, and it means absolutely nothing, since you're still the one who is going to lose the battle. And Opie will absolutely lose this one, bearing them being so great at their job that they're irreplaceable, which is unlikely. Not the a-hole, but be prepared to be fired soon. Your coworkers and boss are going to be looking for any reason to get you in trouble. And if you are on probation, expect to be let go. I know it sucks, but that's the way these companies bootlickers work. Good on you standing your ground, and shame on the company for lying to you about the job.